All right, man. Hey, Shalom.
Shalom.
Okay, Shalom, and all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruchakadash. Double honors as always to our apostles, bishops, and elders, a great, most honorable well. And Shalom, sincerely to the elect. The elect of Yahweh Shai, the elect of Israel, starting with 144,000, and elect governing body. And today, man, the lesson that we're going to go into is Esau. Scriptures say that he basically thinks he's like he's like the Most High. Okay, so he has a God complex. When we know that he's the devil, the scriptures talk about. So we're going to go into that in this lesson, a little bit about his blessing, and the things that he's done. Going to go a bit into history and things like that to expose this devil, because that's what we're here to do. Okay, until the return of our Lord, man. All right. So with that, man, I'm going to say, if we can just go to Ezekiel 28, I'm going to start from there, Bobby Shah.
Okay. That's right. Easy 28. Yep. So it says Ezekiel 28 from the top. It says, the word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Lord power, because thine heart is lifted up, right? And thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas. Yet thou art a man and not God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of God.
Right, and the modern day prince of Tyrus is the Edomites, Esau. Okay, and pretty much in the scripture when you read it, it says thine heart is lifted up. We know that when you look into Esau, in Habakkuk 2, he said the spirit is not upright in him. You look into different things, his heart is lifted up. The pride of Esau, when you read it in Obadiah 1, in fact, we can even get a precept in Obadiah 1, I think it touches on that. It goes into his pride, and this man is so proud, okay, that he's like, well, I am the Most High. You had different ancient civilizations that believed in different gods, or believe in that God, or believe in that God, okay, which Esau works as Satan. But he's like, I am the Most High. Yeah. I'm on that level now. I'm on, because what it is that he's got blessing envy, to be set up as a power on the earth, all right, a true judge on the earth is a thing that is reserved for the Israelites. That's the blessing we got, okay, and that's what's being played out, and eventually will come to full fruition in the kingdom, okay. And Esau was hurt by it back then when we got the blessing. He wanted to kill us, okay, kill Jacob, his brother, okay, our forefather, and he wants to do that to this day. Yes, okay, he's got a perpetual hatred, okay, as the scriptures say, that is being played out, and we're gonna, Lord, we're gonna touch on that in this lesson. But yeah, we can go into that up, man.
What you want to end then?
Just on his pride, man. Yeah.
It says Obadiah 1:3. It says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock.
It says that, dwellest in the clefts of the rock. What do they call themselves? Caucasian. If you go up to the top, Bubble Shah, right, it says this is concerning Edom. So we know who it's talking about here. It's when you read Obadiah, the first chapter. And it's funny because it says in the greater, Edom will be humbled.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen, man. Okay. That we read in Ezekiel 28, he is just a man, and he's going to find out that he's the lowest of man. Go on, man.
That's it. So it says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?
Yeah, they've got all these high rises, penthouse suites. Okay, their habitation is high. They've got all kinds of things in heaven. Okay, they are, and they were in the clefts of the rocks, in the caves and all that. So their mentality. What's this? One of their symbols, the eagle.
The eagle, yeah.
The eagle soars and flies very high. Okay, and it's going to go into that in verse 4. Okay.
Yep. This is though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh.
And that goes into their different programs, the Apollo program, and they have their weapon systems up there and things like that. Okay, their satellites. Now, it said, "Who shall bring me down to the ground?" That's pride. Well, the one that's going to bring you down to the ground is Yahweh Shemiel Shai.
That's right.
The one that set you up in the first place was Yahweh Shemiel Shai. Okay. But yeah, that's it on that. We can go back to that's just to land back on Esau's pride, okay? Because Esau is Edom, and as we said, the modern day Prince of Tyrus is Esau. That's what he's talking about here.
Yeah.
And his heart has been lifted up. He's saying that he is a power. Okay, go on, man.
Yep. So it says, verse 3, it says, "Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee."
Yeah. Now, when you look into the prophet Daniel, he was known for his wisdom. He was given the vision of the dream that was Nebuchadnezzar had. Okay, and he had the interpretation of it. Okay, he was very wise. He had Daniel's diet. What does he call it? With the pulse.
Yeah.
Okay, he was a very wise prophet. He was the one that was breaking down all these things. But what they're saying is, thou art wiser than Daniel. So they've got this technology now. They've got this way that they've been built up by Yahweh Shai. Okay, where there's no secret that can be hid from them. They got all this information. They got all this tech, which we're going to touch on this lesson. Okay, and they're diligently searching out things. Okay, and ultimately they're searching out because they're trying to get that blessing. They're trying to be like the Most High. They're trying to be God. Okay, and I believe it was Apostle Har that said that what's reserved for Israel is we're going to be like mini Most Highs on the earth in order.
That's it. Psalms 82 and 6.
Yeah, we can even get that if you want to get that up. Beautiful precept, yeah.
Right, so Psalms 82 and 6 says, "I have said ye are gods, and all of you are the children of the Most High."
Yeah.
No, that's what I was just going into, man. That's what's blessed to us. We are gods, right? It's it's in our name, Yahshua, right here, Prince of the Power, right? I mean, Prince of the Power, Prince of God. So it's just like, if the Most High is the Most High, then we're going to be right underneath it. And that's why, really, it's funny everything that Esau's trying to do, and he spent hundreds of years trying to do it. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we just don't have it.
And that's what's beautiful, because in this lesson, Lord willing, we've been doing a bit of research before we did the lesson, okay? And you're going to see, obviously, it goes further back than we've been going to go into, because history is vast, and they come into power in the Renaissance. But if you look at the technological advancements in these last century, you had the Industrial Revolution. All that building up, that's a beautiful point. All that building up, the Lord's going to take you down in an instant. You're going to be humbled, man. You're going to be shown to be nothing.
Yeah.
In
fact, I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted in Ezekiel 28.
Bit more, but yeah.
Verse 9.
Okay, we'll read down to it. Yeah, we'll read down to it. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. As Ezekiel 28 and 4 says, "With thy wisdom and with thine understanding thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures."
Now, who's the richest family in the earth? The Rothschilds. Okay, and you got the different elite families that rule this place. International banking elite, as they're one of the titles that they're known by. They're the elites of Esau, and they've got all of these riches, okay, through their understanding, through their deceit, okay, and working through their witchcraft. They've got their different think tanks. They've got their different sorcerers, okay. What's the modern day names for some of these wise men that Esau have? You got scientists, certain scientists, certain people in positions of power. You got people that are like agents for like mediums of multimedia, like they control what's written, what films are made.
What's that family, man?
Computer scientists. People that work in defense and arms. Okay. Modern day Smiths. Okay, what's that? That's in Isaiah. So there's all these different. You got their different soothsayers, their prognosticators. You got people that read the signs in the heavens. You got different people that do different things in Esau's society to fulfill his new world order agenda. Okay, and the main place that's been spearheaded by is America. America is heavily in prophecy, and witchcraft. That's all throughout the scriptures. So we're going to go into that in this lesson. We're going to make a point. Okay.
Verse 5 says, "By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches."
Yeah, that goes into business. Yeah, go ahead.
"And thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches."
Yeah. So like, this is what money is like a defense. This guy thinks he's untouchable. Okay. He's got innumerable funds, basically. Do what we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
They go anywhere they want, do what they want, and what they ultimately want is they got all the control of the earth. They got everything. What do they want? They want total control. They want to be like the Most High. Okay. They want to have a system where you even try to think against the elite. Okay. And they can just shut you down, to kill, just on the spot, you just die. You might have a heart attack or something, and they're going to be able to try and move towards that system through what? The mark of the beast. Okay, where they put a CHIP. I have to say it that way so they don't take down the video. They put a CHIP in the people. Okay, and in that interview with Aaron Russo and Alex Jones, Aaron Russo, was talking, and he was a producer, so he knew that he'd produced some films, Freedom to Fascism and this and that. He was in he was rubbing shoulders with certain people in different industries, okay, whether it be the film industry or whatever, okay, and he was rubbing shoulders with this Rockefeller. Was it Nick Rockefeller?
Something, yeah. Nick
and he told him straight up. He said, "Look, what's the ultimate goal here? We want to chip the people." Alex Jones was total control. Okay. Now we know that the control is of Yahweh Shemel Shai. Okay, the Lord has got his angels set up, and they're going about the earth, beholding the good and evil, and taking care of things and doing His will. Okay. Now Esau wants to do that through his AI, through his tech. He's trying to emulate that. Okay, but that's why the Lord is doing all this to lift him up, and then He's going to take him down.
Exactly, because ultimately it's all part of the Most High's movie, right? Because I was even thinking of the piece at Psalm 17:13, right? The sword of the Lord. Okay, and Esau being the sword of the Lord, right? One of the things that he is being used for is the bringing about of Jacob's trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like he has to build these systems. He has to get these smarts. He has to do all of these things for this purpose.
Oh, I got a precept in Psalms. Bear with me. Let me just get it quickly. This is Psalms chapter 55 and verse 21. Just on that point you made. Right? This is Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. So he might talk peaceably, and you see him how this is going to benefit the people. We're going to do this and that. But everything that this Edomite devil does is through thinking of war or thinking of killing, to destroying. Okay, death. That's what he represents. Okay, and the primary target that this devil has is us, the Israelites, the princes of the power, because we're the biggest threat to him. Okay, the elites, they know who we are. They know who we are, so they're trying to do everything within their power to try and upset the prophecies, to try and get rid of us. Okay, go ahead up. So back in
It says Ezekiel 28:6 now. It says, "Therefore thus saith the Lord power, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of the Most High. Behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness."
Yeah, and how's that going to happen? World War III. Okay, they're going to be exposing Esau, and the nations are going to basically come up against other nations are going to come up against Esau. Okay, go ahead up.
"They shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas."
Yeah, because these rulership is going to be taken down, and the next rulership is everyone's going to be trying to think that, well, we're going to vie for we're going to try and get the next rulership. No, Yahweh Shai is going to establish his kingdom upon the earth, the rulership of Israel.
I always kind of think, but it's like, the scene in Game of Thrones where you got Jon Snow. He's just on the battlefield against Ramsay Bolton's army, and Ramsay's like, "Look, man, I'm just about to take on and take out Jon Snow, then I'm gonna be king of the north, yada yada yada." Then out of nowhere, right, you got this other army that just come in and they just take over and they win, right? And I always kind of think about how that's akin to this thing, because right now everyone's looking at the major geopolitical players. You got people learning Chinese, where it's like, well, obviously America's
next,
exactly, right. All of that sort of thing, right? You can have other nations that are thinking, maybe if we can just do a little jujitsu in the middle, right, we'll be able to just slide up in there, right? But the people who the world isn't even thinking about,
and they're gonna have to come up against Yahweh Shai.
That's it.
Because that's in 2 Ezra 13.
That's it.
All the remaining armies are going to try and be like, whoa, okay, hold on.
Hang about.
Well, we're going to have to do something about this. And the thing is, they're aware of the chariots of the Lord, which they call the so-called UFOs or the UAPs, which they know what it is, man. Okay. there's one computer scientist. He was I think it was a French geezer. I forgot his name. Jacques or Vasquez, something like that. He's a famous computer scientist, and he's got all these different books on like he's like an expert on UFOs, and he was one of the guys that was saying that it might be like a more of a supernatural, not just like an alien thing, but more like he's got books on like angels and things like that. So he's alluding to the fact that he knows who's really in them chariots. Okay, the angels of the Lord.
That's right.
You know, go ahead.
Verse 9 it says, "Wilt thou yet say before him that slayeth thee, I am God? But thou shalt be a man and no God in the hand of him that slayeth thee."
Yeah. So if you go up a couple verses to the bit where it says, verse 6, right? He set thine heart as the heart of God. Okay, so he actually thinks he's on that level. All right. Now, if we play that clip, Babak Shah, timestamp for it is 36:50.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to go a little bit into cybernetics. Okay, and if we can also get a definition of cybernetics, I know that the definition we had was a bit more easy to understand, but it's basically going into loop systems. Okay, and if you go to the core concepts, we'll read what it says and then we'll break down what it means. Okay, and it's just go ahead.
Okay, so cybernetics is the transdisciplinary study of how goal-directed, self-regulated systems, whether natural, artificial, or social, maintain their function and achieve their goals through feedback loops.
Yeah, so it's about understanding how these systems are basically regulate themselves, natural, artificial, and social. Okay, and that's going to lead, the understanding of this cybernetics is going to lead on to everything that we're going through right now today, all the research that Esau's done. We can also load up, I'll get Psalm 64. But go into the core concepts like Bob Shaw.
Yeah, core concepts. Feedback. Cybernetics centers around feedback loops, where a system's output is fed back as input, influencing its subsequent behavior, right? So this is self-regulation.
Which goes into control. If you understand how a system works, which is what Esau's been trying to do, he's been trying to understand how we work, how to control.
Exactly.
Basically how to take Israel out. Okay. And part of that, and control the people. And he needs to understand, that's why he does all the studies of biology, our study of our bodies, okay, study of our minds. He's always been studying that, okay? And now he'll be doing experiments. He'll be doing live experiments.
Yeah.
What do you think? The precursor, C19,
Yeah.
we don't, to this day, there's information out there, but we're going to find out what this devil really put up in there, man, and concocted.
Yeah, he was running a multi-pronged experiment with that, right? It was just observing how, like, if you spoke to anyone in other countries during that period of time, what you kind of got a picture of was how he was kind of saying, okay, if I do this approach over here, how is that going to be taken? If I do that approach over there, how is that going to be taken? Right, and because he knows the kind of people in that particular place as well, right? It can be like, well, I had to do it like this over here, right? Therefore, in those other countries, I'd have to kind of apply this type of pressure, right? So he was doing a test on how easily, for instance, as well, how much resistance that he will get, right? In terms of when he started pushing out the Jews, because you get certain countries, certain groups of people that they'll say, oh, okay, finally, that's awesome. That's great. Right. But then he had factions that were like, no, I ain't taking it. Yeah. And it was like, okay, you're gonna, what'd you call it? You might lose your job. No, I ain't taking it. Okay, you've lost your job. I'm still not taking it.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, now I've got, okay, so I'm gonna have that sizable chunk of the population that if I was to calm down, I'm just gonna have to come straight down with force.
And that goes into the second clip we're gonna play later.
Yeah.
Right, which is interesting. Of how this man basically wants to understand and control things to bring about his agenda.
That's it.
He's got a New World Order agenda where he sits as the Most High, looking down on the people that are left on the earth and controlling them, complete control.
That's it.
When we were kind of looking into the system of how it works, you look at his different movies, the Eye in the Sky type movies, you got Independence Day, Minority Report, and all these different types of movies, these dystopian movies. A lot of them, he's got he uses his tech to have control. Okay, And once he's got that CHIP, that mark in you, okay, it's going to be like, oh, you know what? You know, you might just think, because we were talking about slavery. You were eyeballing me, boy. Yeah. If you get to that point where you're just thinking now, but you know, these, you know, hating on these Amalek, you know, you was talking about the cortisol levels and this and that. They can be able to measure things. The people that have got the CHIP, measure it and be like, all right, that guy is a potential, you know, going to try and come up against the system. Zooming on you with some cameras and all that, eye in the sky, and then, you know, take you out.
I'm going to grab this.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Neuralink person, because I always remembered like he said this, right? It also makes me think, not saying it will be linked, but makes me think of the saying, you know, be happy, have nothing and be happy. They could be doing that with drugs, but also with this, because it's one of the things he says is Neuralink, right, is exploring the use of this technology to treat depression, among other neurological conditions. So the company aims to develop a thing that can monitor and stimulate brain activity, potentially rebalancing disrupted patterns associated with depression, right? So if you can control depression, you can control other things. That means you also need to detect when the person is feeling depressed. So if you can associate all of those types of things, then guess what? You'll also be able to associate resent, right? Disgust, attraction, because what was it, a Demolition Man, right? No one was allowed to pop. Right? So it's like, whoa. Who says you're allowed to be attracted to that woman? Just shuts your whole system down. So this is what this man is getting into, man.
Yeah, he wants complete control.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, if we can go back to the definition. Right. And then could you just go down to application so we can just get to the point of how he's been using it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Cybernetics has broad applications across various fields, including biology, understanding how living organisms regulate their internal environment and behavior.
Understanding, basically need to understand us. Okay. How do they work? How do they think? Okay. And then control that. Yeah, go ahead.
Engineering, designing and controlling artificial systems like robots and control systems.
Which they're doing. Okay, you got AI pretty much. And it's going to go into that in the next points as well. Go ahead.
Social sciences, analyzing social systems, organizations, and human interactions.
Oh, data. You know, data. They got data on everyone, man. Okay, what are you into? What do you do? Why do you do it? You know, they're constantly analyzing, and that's sort of purposes of control.
And the thing is, it's like people don't understand just how easy it is for the NE to extrapolate and put you in a box, right? Because he understands you get lots of different. So when you look at AI, right, all it really is a collection of lots and lots and lots and lots of data, right? So that's why, for instance, you ask the AI certain things and it will be able to answer it quite well. And you ask it something a little bit more niche and it hasn't really got the answers because it needs source material, right? So that's why, for instance, you might ask him, you know, about the different camps. And I was even now thinking that now, one of the reasons it knows so much about us is because we're constantly putting out videos, right? It's got all of that source material to work with. Okay, but even just because it says human interactions, that's how Esau's also able to manipulate human interaction. We now legit live in a society where men and women hate each other, right? And then that was just by changing what you see versus what you see. It's one of the things that people have done and kind of clocked onto was, I remember one guy was like, me and my girlfriend, we looked at an Instagram post. He saw one load of comments and then she saw another load of comments.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So then, because that's the thing, once again, input output systems, feedback loops, right? Because we've all, like, comedy is a perfect example of a feedback loop. Because what happens is you hear a joke and then you laugh, but then when you hear no one else laughing, everyone immediately just kind of, okay, maybe it's not funny. That's a feedback loop. So I also, like, you get laugh tracks. Like people always say, when you watch Friends without the laugh track, it's like not funny.
Yeah.
Right.
And Esau's done loads of scientific, psychological experiments.
Exactly.
Like that. Because there's the other side of it where you have the one where a bunch of people in a room and they might be like, for example, everyone just gets up, the actors. Everyone gets up. You know them, they got YouTube videos of it. They got things like that. They got the other, you know, other ones where they got like an authoritative figure telling them to hurt someone, put electric shocks in them and stuff. So Esau's been doing this. He's been doing these experiments, and that all ties into him basically being able to oppress, okay, and destroy Israel.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it goes on to say cognitive sciences,
which goes into what the thought, basically, right? Minority Report goes into that.
Right.
Goes into what basically like pre-crime, like thought.
Yeah.
You know, thought criminals and all that. You know,
Yeah.
go
So
ahead.
studying how humans and animals process information and learn.
Mm.
Computer science, building and understanding complex computational systems, including AI. So there's management, analyzing organizational structure, regulation, and self-regulation.
Yeah. And one of the key figures pretty much was Norbert Weiner, which I looked into his background. Surprise, surprise. Amalek. Okay. You know, small hats. Okay, he says he's considered a founder of the field. And, you know, he was in these group. We're going to play that clip later. He was in part of these meetings with the Macy group, the Macy's, and the foundation that's up on basically how do we control the people. And he's a mathematician, famous mathematician. He's pretty much one of Esau's like wise men, if you will. And he was going into helping them in World War I with artillery. Okay, and a lot of these concepts with cybernetics got taken seriously at the end of World War II. And that's why you've got all this like technology and control that's been happening over time leading up to what? World War III. Okay. But yeah, that's it on that. I think we can play the clip now. And then, yeah, while we're playing the clip, bro, if anything comes to you, just go to the precepts, you know, explain certain things. You know, Lord, and don't take the video now. Fair use. You know, this is for educational purposes. We're not going to make any money off this. We're not going to monetize this. Okay, it's just free education.
Obwohl Wieners Maschinen bis Kriegsende nicht einsetzbar sind, entwickelt er davon ausgehend das Modell einer neuen Wissenschaft, die als Kybernetik bekannt wird. Kybernetik entwickelt er davon ausgehend das Modell an bis Kriegsende nicht einsetzbar sind, entwickelt er davon ausgehend das Modell einer neuen Wissenschaft, die als Kybernetik bekannt wird.
We already told you what cybernetics is and what it's leading up to, what we're dealing with today. Go ahead up.
Kybernetik beschäftigt sich mit der Frage, wie Nachrichtenübertragung in Maschinen und Lebewesen funktioniert. Basis der Kybernetik ist die Annahme, dass das menschliche Nervensystem Realität nicht abbildet, sondern errechnet.
It's like at that point there, it's like Esau always wants to quantify stuff, right? Like for instance, if something happens, we may just be like, it's a spirit. Esau, on the other hand, okay, why did that happen? Right? What's the physical? Like for instance, you know, Yahushua walked on water. We're like, damn, that's a miracle. Esau's like, well, at that time,
which is deception. He's coming with his deception.
Exactly.
You know, he's BS.
Yeah, well, you saw that there was a bit of ice there, so it was easy to walk. It's like, nah, bro, just F out of here, man.
I was talking to you about like demonic attacks when you sleep and all that.
Yeah.
Esau, what would Esau say? He'll be like, what's the phrase for it that you use?
Sleep paralysis.
That's a sleep paralysis, right? Oh, that happens because your body was regulating this.
Yeah.
But hold on, you got people. I was reading different comments. People are going through different things. Okay, waking up with bite marks and shit on their ribs and all that. And they look, man, it's a demon.
That's it.
Okay, straight as, you know, basically fucking with you.
Yeah, but that's because Esau's a carnal man. Right? The scriptures speak about, you know, the carnal man cannot receive the things of the spirit. Right?
Yeah.
Der Mensch erscheint nun als ein informationsverarbeitendes System.
Yeah, if the man is looked at as like a system, okay, which we're creations of Yahweh Shemiel Shai, okay, and there is a perfect system of how we work, okay, which is going to be, you know, in this body at least, you know, because we're going to be perfected into the new bodies, you know, but pretty much what they're doing is, you know, okay, we've worked out that they're like a system. So how do we manipulate the system? What drugs can we give? What thoughts can we put in there to try and manipulate and decept?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then not only that, it's can I grab this real quick just on that?
Yes, yeah. That's beautiful.
Did you see how many pop-ups there were?
Yeah, yeah.
Share this tab instead, right? Because it's also what stimuli, right? He doesn't necessarily need to give you chemicals. He can also change how you feel about what stimulus is that you're getting. So he knows people are addicted to these social media platforms, right? So then it's like, okay, cool. Once again, and it's in fact, let me just read it.
Even before you read that, what you're exposed to,
yeah.
If you ain't got the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which is the stability of that time, Isaiah 33:6, you can be manipulated by that
very easily.
And one thing they showed you that in was Clockwork Orange.
Right.
They basically was trying to rewrite his brain so that every time he tried to do something, because he was like a criminal or whatever, every time he tried to do something that was like violent, he got sick, felt sick.
Right.
And they were like opening his eyes and making him watch all these, flashing all these images. They're basically like mind control.
Yeah.
And then, Esau's got MK Ultra and all that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, and I always talk about, but I find it very fascinating, is how Esau uses the adult entertainment industry to basically shape relationships as well, right? To shape what people do to the end where like people are basically participating in witchcraft rituals. Because they've observed it in this thing, something like that individual would never normally think about doing. Right, but then because they've watched it and they've been stimulated by it in their mind, right, they now then go into the world and reenact these things, not understanding that like they've committed something that's like legit in witchcraft. Things, right? And this is Facebook manipulated 680 from Forbes. Facebook manipulated 700,000 users' emotions for science, right? It says Facebook's the best human research lab ever. There's no need to get experiment participants to sign pesky consent forms as they've already agreed to the site's data use policy.
That's all data.
Yeah. A team of Facebook data scientists, right, are constantly coming up with new ways to study human behavior through social network. And any company that has some kind of marketing budget will have data scientists working with them, right? It's just how they learn how to optimize for certain outcomes. And as the bro was going into that, when Esau's looking at all these different data points, it's like, how do I optimize for the outcomes that I want, right? Once again, it's this idea of being a god, right? And this is the thing, we're not dealing with a sane man. So for him, these outcomes are destructive, right? If I can grab this real quick.
Oh, and who's gonna get a scripture?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll make my point after.
Yeah, you make it. I'm just typing it in.
Okay. Yeah, we were watching the videos. Elder Yashwan, but Elder Ariella. They were going into Palantir, and they were, going into Lord of the Rings, and it's basically far seeing. It was a tool that was used to look and get information and things of that nature. Okay, and you got that, the US database, citizenship database that Trump wants with Palantir, and Palantir is one of those companies that's up with Facebook. It's all these data companies, AI companies that are gathering this information and then using that information to forward Esau's agenda, to have more control, okay, to execute judgment, to spy on the people, to do what they need to do.
That's right. This is Habakkuk 2:5. It says, also because he transgressed by one, that's his philosophies. He's a proud man, neither keepeth at home, right? Who enlarges his desires hell and desires death, right? It says, I cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Right. So point out one of that's like you're dealing with a man, right, who is basically always pushing something to do with death. Because let's say he could have used this experiment to manipulate people to, be like, okay, this is good. So in fact, we aren't gonna just give people access to death everywhere. Right. In fact, we're gonna use these systems to make the world a better place. But that's not what he wants. He has an agenda to destroy. Okay. So let me just finish up real quick. So when the team releases papers about what it's learned from us, we often learn surprising things about Facebook instead, such as the fact that it can keep track of the status updates we never actually post, of course. So Facebook has played around with manipulating people before getting 60,000 to rock the vote in 2010 that theoretically wouldn't have otherwise. But recent studies show Facebook playing a whole new level of mind game with its guinea pigs. right? It says, as first noted, the new scientist at Animal New York, Facebook data science manipulated the news feeds, 700,000 users, removing either all of the positive posts or all of the negative posts to see how it affected their moods. And this is once again, because he has so much data, he's able to see by way of what you're posting and how you're posting it, okay, did it actually work? Right? Because this is it. It's just like, you know, we're dealing, as I know the priest are about to get, right? His heart is deep, his mind is deep.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't have to be in a lab somewhere in some obscure place doing a small study with 10, 20 people and get their consent forms and this and that.
Yeah.
Hush, hush. No. You can do it out in the open. Well, they're doing it like without people's.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you sign that contract for the data use policy, you already signed it.
Exactly.
Like it said at the start. So it's openly, they're basically doing these experiments and getting information, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And then now you think about your own news feed, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on, and this is one of the things you notice, like you and yeah, it's, you know, they'll claim money, you know, it's useful for this purpose, that purpose, but you watch one video and then now that's all your feed and stuff like that, right? So it's just the way that they're able to then manipulate your worldview, which is why one of the things that elders always say, right, is just like sometimes you kind of need to, like, you're not even, so you've got to be careful of what you're ingesting, right? Because you can spend a lot of time watching, you know, women are, you need to have 6 figures to get a woman. And it's like, but bro, like, man's had women with about 6 figures, you know, but if you're constantly consuming that information, that's going to shape your worldview, put you in an echo chamber that is just not reality. But Esau knows what he's doing. Okay.
But that's why the knowledge is so important.
Yeah.
Because what we watch, we filter.
That's it.
You know, but these people out here, they got no foundation. They got nothing to work off of. You know, they're just susceptible to anything. You know, mind control.
That's it.
Remember the scriptures say in Matthew 24th chapter that if it were possible, they would have deceived the very elect. But it's not possible to deceive the elect because the elect have this truth within them. You know?
That's it. I'll just read this bit real quick and we'll carry on. So the researchers led by data scientist Adam Kramer found that emotions were contagious, right? This is when positive expressions were reduced, people produced fewer positive posts, right? And more negative posts, right? This is when negative expressions were reduced, the opposite pattern occurred, right? So this is where you're starting to get like, because before we called it AI, in software, we referred to it as machine learning, right? Because there's no way they would have crunched through 700,000 people in a week, right? They would have had to use algorithms, which, I mean, nowadays we've got the super smart AIs that are then, so then imagine how much data they're now able to process off of you, right?
And algorithms are what part of what mathematics?
Exactly.
You know,
all AI is maths. It's what do you call it? It's maths and a bit of software. It's probabilities. Yeah. Right. Because
you got. Yeah.
No, because it's just a thing of like, if you've got 1,000, that's why they call them large language models, right? Because you need a load of data to start from the to basically start your calculation. Because if you've got 3 data sets, right, and then it's like, how do you feel after I show you this post, right? 3's not really, what do they say in it's not statistically important or whatever the correct terminology is. But if you've got 100,000 data points and 95,000 of them did something that basically showed happiness, right, whatever they would calculate as being happy, then they know that is what is statistical significance, right? So that's all it is. It's just maths. So then they know that if you basically type in this, then the AI is going, okay, then you probably mean this, right? That's just really when you get to the crux of what it is. Yeah, it's a lot more complicated than that in terms of, you know, dealing with X, Y, you know, what's the term, side effects and stuff like that. But that's basically what it is, just maths, like you said.
Yeah, and a lot of those early mathematicians and, you know, different people that were in different fields that led into like early computer scientists and the people who started to make like the internet and things like that. And we were looking into that system called SAGE, which was around the Cold War era. Okay, and the guy was going into how early use of the modem, you know, early use of the internet, going onto ARPANET and the internet. so that, you know, you take one system down or server down somewhere, the internet's still going to be running, because it was a wartime tactic.
Web.
Which shows you that Esau's blessing is what we should get that, hold that as well. Esau's blessing, Genesis 27, to show you why this man is a lot of these things he's doing is for war. Okay, it stems off of his war.
Yeah,
you know, you read it in Habakkuk 2, how he's gathering all the nations. He don't want to sit at home. He's doing that through war. He's doing that through his philosophies, like it said. Okay. So you got a couple of precepts. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Psalms 140 from the top. So deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in the heart, which this is mischief. Right? Continually are they gathered together for war.
That's what it is, man. War and war. That's how this man makes his money. That's how he gets his control. Okay, that's how he gets his blessing of control over the earth. You know, and we can get that in Genesis to prove that Esau's blessing is of the sword. That's how he's going to live. Okay, a lot of these technologies you see, they come out of like military testing, military contracts. It's all military first.
Well, the thing is, I always remember the elder said this years ago. It's like at the end of the day, to do these experiments, to do these things, right? Let's be real. Let's say you wanted to go into something, right? And so I'm going to research X, Y, and Z. Well, you still got to. Who's going to pay your rent?
Right.
Who's going to pay your bills? Who's going to pay you to do this, that, and the other? But if you're dealing with the military-industrial complex, as an example,
huge budget.
Yeah, where you just got it may not even. It may just be like a blank. Write a number. Don't worry about it.
You know what? Just out of curiosity, could you type in what is the percentage of the GDP of America, or what percentage of like do they put towards military industrial complex?
Okay.
No, I'm not sure how we can word that, but yeah, what percent of America's GDP goes towards defense budget? If you want to put it that way.
Oh, okay.
That's easier towards defense budget.
All right. So in 2023, the US dedicated approximately 3.5% of its GDP to military spending. Right. So what is that as a whole number? Right. Found this chicken here. Yeah. So that was $900 billion.
So it says it's the largest portion of discretionary federal budget.
Yeah. What is it? Sorry.
At the top, the military budget is the largest portion of discretionary federal budget allocated to the Department of Defense. Goes to any military-related expenditures.
So it's any military-related expenditure, right? I mean, because it's like this is the thing. If this was 3.5% of Malaysia's GDP, then it's like small fry in it, right? But when you read Revelation 18, it's like, nah, this everyone's, sends their goods. In fact, no, GDP is what you make, but even still, that's still like America. When we see it, they're 849 billion. That's 3.5%. That's wild.
Yeah. So basically, they're pumping a lot of money into it. Basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, where was we at? The blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. This is Genesis 27. And 39. Right, it says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. It shall come to pass when thou shalt flock dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
And the key point in that blessing is by thy sword shalt thou live. That's not in our blessing. It says nations are going to bow down to us. Blessed is he that blesseth us.
Yeah.
Okay. But he says that by thy sword shalt thou live. That's everything you do is war orientated. And it goes from that. That, how can I take? How can I destroy? Okay. How can I do it that way? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how, that's how this man basically rules, man.
That's it.
Okay. I was thinking, let me get the scripture now. Did we finish off that clip?
No.
Okay, let's go back into the clip and I'll read the scripture. It was until, what timestamp? 39:32.
Denken als Datenverarbeitung und das Gehirn als eine Fleischmaschine. Das Gehirn ist nicht mehr der Ort, an dem sich auf geheimnisvolle Art und Weise das Ich und Identität durch Erinnerung und Bewusstsein bildet. Es ist eine Maschine, die aus Schalt- und Regelkreisen, aus Rückkopplungsschleifen und aus Kommunikationsknoten besteht. Eine Blackbox, in der in einem Kreislauf die Ursache Wirkung und die Wirkung Ursache ist. Ein geschlossenes Rückkopplungssystem mit In- und Output, den man kontrollieren und berechnen kann. Nicht mehr wie bisher ausgehend von Naturanschauung, sondern von unbezweifelbarer Mathematik und Logik.
That's what is that? Ecclesiastes, isn't it?
You're talking about the no man have.
Oh, power of retain. That's
Yeah.
retain the spirit, but you know.
Yeah.
No, we'll just carry on. It's all right.
Was that the one that he's going to get?
Yeah, retain the
Yeah,
spirit.
yeah,
I
you might as
thought.
well get it, bro.
Yeah,
The precept, yeah. You know, it's edifying. That's what
Yeah.
we're here to do, bring them scriptures out.
Yeah, there is like I thought it was worded differently, and you know the ones you remember. In fact, no, it is the one way I remember it. Yeah.
Mhm.
It says there's no man that hath power over the spirit to retain the spirit, neither hath he power in the day of death, and there's no discharge in that war, neither shall wickedness deliver those that are given to it.
Yeah.
I just remembered it phrased like in the beginning of it, but I forgot to retain the spirit bit.
Yeah.
But but even still, that's one of the things with these different systems that E is trying to work on as well. It's just like when people die, just to be able to be like, upload you into like a machine and just to keep. It's like, no, you can't do that, man. Right? Because at the end of the day, you have no power over the spirit. That's really what the point I was trying to make was. So I just remembered it worded a little bit differently, you know.
Yep.
Okay.
Wieners Zukunftsvision von einer kommenden kybernetischen Gesellschaft liefert nun für den neuen politisch-militärischen Status der USA als Supermacht
It's funny because this is like a technocracy, you know. That's why you got Elon Musk all up in there next to Trump and this and that. That's how these elites, these international bankers are ruling this thing, you know, through this technology, through this power that's been given to them, man.
wissenschaftliche Legitimation.
Oh, and I mentioned Babylon, United States that's how they got that superpower status. Okay, they had the edge over in the war through their weapons, and now it's one of the main places of the Lord's judgment and one of the main places of his prophecy.
Yeah.
Okay, you got the Mark prophecy that we're going to read. Okay, and the complete control. When you had 9/11 happen and they bring out the Patriot Act, that's America. Okay, and the whole world marveled.
Yeah.
You know, and you had the beginning of basically taking away the rights of the people more and more.
Kybernetik wird zur neuen globalen Leitwissenschaft, die fortan unter wechselnden Etiketten weiterentwickelt wird. Aus einer Theorie wird weltweite Praxis.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a precept. Psalms chapter 64, and I'm just going to jump around in it. Verse 2, it says, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity." Okay, and that's talking about, the international bank and elite. You got the different groups that they, have their people got working under. Okay, some they call themselves the Illuminati or the Bilderberg group and the Council of Foreign Relations. You got all these different groups.
Yeah.
Okay, different orders. Okay, you got the Bohemian Grove and this. You got different things that they use, but ultimately they're the secret council of the wicked. They're ruling in secrecy, but through the internet and through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai, they're being exposed.
Yes,
Okay, and it's going to go into that in the scripture as well. You got people amongst themselves exposing them. He says, "Who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not," because it's aimed at us.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like that's the ultimate. I was touching on it at the camp, right? About understanding this man's purpose. When we see what's going on in the world, we understand who's the ruler of the world, and we understand his main aim. And his main aim is to get rid of us. Is to bring about this NWO, and as part of that, get rid of us. So whenever we see anything that he does, us knowing that that is his main aim, like we're not looking at it like, ooh, he's going to use it to make healthcare more affordable. We're like, no, he's going to use this to make us look mad, right? You've been seeing how good those AR videos have become. It's going to make us look mad, and a part of that afterwards is to come down against us.
Yeah.
It
says they encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? Yeah, secret meetings, man. They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. That's the different think tanks and the different, scientists, the wise men of Teeman and so on and so forth coming together and, forwarding their agenda.
Yeah.
How can we control the people? How can we destroy Israel? How can we get everyone chipped? How can we be like gods on the earth and come with complete? That's what it is.
Yeah.
It says.
And sorry, because remember just touching on this earlier on. One of the things that one of the labs that Google has, right, is it's a company called DeepMind, but trades as Google DeepMind. And I want to think about that process in the context of like AI, and I find it very interesting, very spiritual actually, that they called the company DeepMind, because when it says heart is deep, right, we understand that the word heart means mind, right? So it's like mind is deep, so it's like deep mind. Google, deep mind, because that's ultimately what E is basically trying to build as a part of this, man, right? To show just how much power that that he can obtain. Okay.
Yeah. I looked into the Blue Letter. It says deep, mysterious. To that word deep, deep, mysterious, depths, deep, unsearchable. Because ultimately he's gonna figure out things, but like he ain't. The spirit is something else.
Exactly.
But he got, Esau knows about that bone does this, and the brain has that part, and
but he said unsearchable. One of the things, it's like he tries to search the unsearchable. Right. The proof of that is Jeremiah, the 30th chapter, or the 31st chapter, where the Lord sets that challenge.
What's the word, man? The goals that he can't complete.
Yeah, unobtainable.
Yeah. He's a carrot on a stick.
That's it. That's it. But oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, you was gonna carry on, my bad.
Yeah, Salakia. It says, but the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly shall they be wounded, which goes into, first of all, it goes into what the destruction that's going to be happening, okay, to this man's kingdom. That's one of the ways he's going to go out. The arrows are talking about the missiles, but also these words, okay, the truth that was shooting at him with like onto arrows, onto like sharpened.
Or like it's Hebrews 4:12 as an example.
Yeah, like
sharper than any two-edged sword.
Yeah, Isaiah. Let me get a quick precept. It's Isaiah 49:2 as well to prove that. Isaiah 49:2, and he have made my mouth like a sharp sword, and in the shadow of his hand have he hid me, and made me a polished shaft in his quiver have he hid me. What do you put in a quiver? An arrow, man. So the Lord basically has made us. This truth is basically part of what taking him down.
Yeah, when you look at that word arrow, it's katazah. Sorry, a shaft, polished shaft. It's katazah, which means arrow.
Yeah, and I'll get another quick precept. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. It says, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. That's the prophets. Okay, through the spirit of his mouth, through the Holy Spirit, we're basically exposing this devil, man, who he really is, what he's really doing, right? And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Because ultimately the Lord's going to come and destroy this man physically on the earth. Okay, and part of that also, because the Lord's going to control them arrows as well. That's the Lord's arrows. That's his weapons of indignation.
That's right.
He's going to control that too. It says, even him who's coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders.
Sure.
You know, and then we're going into that now. All the deception and all the things that he's doing, okay, through his tech. I think I had a bit more on Psalm 64. Just read that. And then I think from there we can go on to the next clip. And Isaiah 14 as well. Might as well read through that as well. But I think Isaiah 14 will come at the end.
Okay.
Lord willing. Psalms chapter 64, verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of the Most High. For they shall wisely consider of his doing. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord and shall trust in him. And all the upright in heart shall glory. That's what it's leading up to, man. Okay, the destruction of this man, his own tongue falling upon himself. You got people that are exposing his witchcraft, these different things that are coming out about him. Okay, everything's being exposed. Esau's being exposed, man.
That's right.
Okay, for the devil that he is. Okay, even the fact that they got this documentary going into different things, that's exposing things, which leads on to the next clip, Bob Shah. I think the timestamp for that, bro, was 57:07.
Zwischen 1946 und 1953 treffen sich im New Yorker Beekman Hotel auf Einladung der Joshua Macy Foundation führende Wissenschaftler verschiedener Fachgebiete. Unter anderem Norbert Wiener, Margaret Mead, Gregory Bateson, Kurt Lewin und John von Neumann. Ziel dieser später Macy-Konferenzen genannten Vertrauen.
When you look at Egypt, right? You know, Egypt had their Magi's.
Yeah.
You know, they had their certain men in these certain positions that were doing these things. It's just now they've got different names. They are mathematician. They are PhD. You know, there's doctors and blah blah blah. Right? He's just giving them new names, but we understand that their purpose is exactly the same.
Yeah, if they're wise, if they're dealing with the wisdom of of wickedness, which really ain't wisdom, but they're the wise men of Esau.
That's it.
You know, and if you look at a lot of the, like Robert Wiener, okay, you look at the different, like a lot of them are Amalek background. A lot of them go back to Germany and all that. You had a lot of the wise men of Teman. You had different Edomites that come out from Germany. Like, some of them went to America, some of them went to Russia.
That's it.
And then you had a boom of technology. They built that. I think, what did the guy say in the documentary? They said that, didn't they say that they built the SAGE system as a response to, was it a response to Sputnik?
I believe that's,
or was it something else?
Well,
I
anyway,
think
it was.
I can't remember for sure. So,
in fact,
you know,
come on, let's use technology. So,
maybe if you look at, but you're gonna look at Sputnik, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, because that should still be the same in English. No, it doesn't say. It doesn't pop up.
I don't matter. Well, the point is that they don't want to be. Oh no, ARPANET I think was set up. Yeah, it was ARPANET. It was ARPANET was set up as a response to Sputnik. Okay, and ARPANET went on to what, the internet. And the thing is, every time that Esau tries to do something, see, we who have this truth through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shmi Shai use it to push the truth. The internet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's in Matthew the 24th chapter. Was that Psalms 19? You know, the internet scripture.
Yeah.
You know, the unicorn. And now you got what, AI. Brothers been doing beautiful, edifying videos of AI.
Yeah.
You know, even for this, because I'm still learning a bit more about how to use the AI. The brother's more advanced about it than me. And he was, when I was doing a bit of research for this video, he was telling me, hey man, you can use the AI. Showing me how to do it and stuff, you know.
Yeah, because that's the thing with the AI. He wants to use it for his, for his wickedness. But as different elders have kind of said, it's like just the times that we're in, right? It allows us to pull in a whole load of research that otherwise would have taken a week or 2 weeks of prep or whatever, and then now it can like condense that research into a couple of hours, right? You know, I did the video on using a Gemini with the deep research button, and it was on the Strait of Hormuz, right? And then it was like it produced like a 31-page thesis. That's what I wrote. It was 31 pages, bro, like 70 different sources, right? Of just like, you know, and imagine you having to go through 70 different articles trying to find what you're looking for.
Go to different websites and all that. I did it all together, yeah.
Did it all together.
I tried it out.
Yeah. And it took like 5 to 10 minutes to generate. I was like, damn.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, man. Hey, how does the scripture go? For the truth.
Nothing can do nothing
against the truth before the truth. Yeah. You know? Go ahead.
Knowledge shall be increased, man.
Yep.
Treffen, an denen gelegentlich Beamte der CIA teilnehmen, ist eine Wissenschaft, die Vorhersage und Kontrolle menschlichen Verhaltens möglich macht. Das ist eine Waffe, die Amerika auf dem neuen Schlachtfeld des Unterbewussten im Kalten Krieg dringend braucht. Aufmerksam registriert die Macy-Gruppe deshalb die 1950 erschienene Studie Die autoritäre Persönlichkeit.
Okay, we're just going to go into like how people with certain beliefs, how they react to things. And then basically the main thing that they're trying to react to is Esau trying to hide, you know, because how did they react to anti-Semitic things, and how did they react to the JOOs, you know? Because Esau sees us as a threat. You know, that's why it says in the scriptures, great fear fell upon them.
That's it.
Go ahead, Art.
Des International Institute of Social Research, eine Neugründung des Frankfurter Instituts für Sozialforschung um Max Horkheimer und Theodor W. Adorno. Die Studie ist das bisher umfassendste Sozialprofil einer Gesellschaft der USA und soll eine wissenschaftliche Erklärung für religiöse und rassistische Vorurteile liefern.
And it's Babylon. Yeah. You know, that's what they're doing this. They're doing this research in America. And what was it saying it was about? Was it racial and what? For religious and racial prejudice. Yeah. I believe prejudice is like when you've got pre-knowledge. Let me have a look at that again. A preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. What they're saying. But that's what they're saying. But the thing is, that's a lie, because the scriptures tell you that that's the devil. Okay, go ahead.
Erklärung für religiöse und rassistische Vorurteile liefern.
In general, what they're doing, remember, the goal is that, and we're going to read the scripture, they want to take Israel out. They need to, we're the number one thing that's getting in the way of there. And why? Because our power is Yahweh Bashmi Shai. And they know who we are. They know how the Lord has dealt with us. They know our history, all of that. Okay? That's why even when they were doing the C19, you read different articles and look at different research. Okay, a lot of it was aimed at what? It was aimed at Jake. They were doing all kinds of things. They were going into like
Jake neighborhoods,
all kinds of things that they were offering, the way it affects Jake. Or they were going to Alaska. There was like tribes in Alaska that they were jumping over funding to get to.
Yeah. And it's one of them ones where, as you know, then you had an individual saying to take that stuff, but it's like, when has Esau ever given that much attention to Jake?
Right.
Like, Jake has been suffering financially for the longest time. Yet, they haven't been, key aims to just be like, look, we need to make sure these so-called black people have X, Y, Z. But they haven't done that. They've done stuff that looked like they were doing that, but in essence, I think the elder always speaks about how DER really helped white women more than anything else, right? Whereas, like, you look at the C19 as Bo was going into, they were legit like, like you had Mr. Falsify going into Jake neighborhoods, answering questions like a Q&A. I was like, rah. It looked like one of them hoods as a Jake, even you don't want to go. You know what's that? Oh, man.
Aus Tausenden von Interviews entsteht eine riesige Datensammlung, die durch modernste Computer ausgewertet wird und vor allem auf eine Frage Antwort geben soll. Wie kommt es zu autoritärem Verhalten als Massenphänomen? In der autoritären Matrix. Die Ursache sehen die Autoren in der autoritären Matrix des Menschen, die den Schlüssel zur Psychologie des Faschismus und totalitärer Systeme überhaupt bietet. Diese Matrix bildet sich durch Erziehung und Tradition und ist scheinbar
Matrix is done through education and tradition. So that's cultural, that's historical.
unauflösbar verbunden mit der
And metaphysical is linked to the metaphysical notion. And they're using different words, but basically it's belief.
metaphysischen Vorstellung von einer übernatürlich geschaffenen Natur. Wie konnte man die Anfälligkeit für
So how could a tendency towards fascism, you can read it, what it says there, and especially against them, Amalek, right?
Faschismus und Rassismus, speziell gegen Juden, gezielt aufspüren und
How can it be tracked and explained? They want to know, what is this driving force? How do we control this? How do you find someone who has this kind of thought process?
Yeah. And
So then if you have that and you can have a CHIP in someone, you can track.
yeah.
We were saying in slavery, how they think. You eyeballing me, boy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you? How you trying to come up against me? You know, they want to shut you down before you can even.
That's it, yeah.
So what are they going to do? They want to shut down all. They want to shut down Israel. Okay, completely, man.
All down.
Who's gonna? So
Yeah, no, it's right. So I was gonna say how that's why right now he is just basically blatantly allowing a double standard because he sort of understands like the concept of the double standards. Like, you know, for instance, you have the so-called, you know, racists talk about the two-tier policing, right? Because there are certain times when he will basically present something which is so obviously ridiculous that a Jake has done, and then a Jake will get away with it. And then like an E will do something lesser, right? And then they'll publicize that he didn't get away with it. So then you have people that are just like, oh, but what have they been doing with the whole G thing? Like, bro, like for instance, allegedly Iran during the war shot at something, it went near a hospital, shockwave, you know, damaged hospital. But then you had, you know, them man coming out and being like, yo, I can't believe that they would do this to a hospital. And then the rest of the world is just there like, bro, you have leveled every single hospital in that tiny strip of land.
the
Next to you.
world are waking up to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they're pushing that as well to foment that hatred so that they can come and clamp down on it, which is why, for instance, the whole Glastonbury incident.
Yeah. And they're trying to clamp down on the internet and shut down
Exactly.
things. That's why they're going to be shutting down. They got all these different, you know, false flag groups out there and this and that because they want to shut down the truth. You know, that goes into Amos. Eventually, there's going to be a famine of hearing of the word. That's why we're doing these videos. You got to get it now while the Lord can be found.
That's it.
You know, and the Lord is found through his prophets. That's how you get this knowledge.
That's right.
You keep playing. Yeah.
nachweisen. Dafür konstruieren die Soziologen eine Skala zur Messung des faschistischen Potenzials, die sogenannte F-Skala. Darüber hinaus sollen mit neuesten psychologischen Verfahren,
Previously concealed personality.
zum Beispiel den Tests des amerikanischen Psychologen Henry A. Murray, einem der Väter der heutigen Assessment Center, bisher
So you talk about that heart is deep. I remember doing in school something called a DISC analysis. And then basically, if you've, you know, especially if you speak to women, they all have done something called 17 personalities, right? You know, like INFJ, ENFJ, all of those types of things. It's a similar disc analysis and that, pretty much a similar thing, right? And then when you're doing this thing, you're answering seemingly unrelated questions, right? But then from that, they actually build an in-depth personality of who you are. Like, you ever done one of them? It's just like, oh, snap. How did it, from those random questions, it'll be stuff like, oh, if someone comes into a store, what would you do? Choose one of these 4 options, right? So then imagine that from seemingly unrelated stuff. So then imagine what he is able to tell you from your browsing patterns, from what you look at, from you know, the type of people you keep company with. Imagine how much about you he is able to work out.
Yep.
Right. So then now you're putting on the supercomputers on top of that, and it's like these men know you better than you know you.
Yeah, and they basically that's playing God. They want to be the Most High.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Verborgene Tendenzen der Persönlichkeit aufgespürt werden.
What's the time on that?
Um Faschismus und Antisemitismus für immer zu verhindern,
Permanently obstructed.
scheint es notwendig, die Natur des Menschen und dessen kulturelle Muster so.
Now that's important. It says to alter the nature of a man and what cultural patterns.
Yeah.
Going back to what worship.
Yeah.
So let's get
the thing as well. It says it's underlying. So it's just like your core, who you are.
Yep.
Right.
You know, and you had that one guy. I'll just say, remember he took the C-19. He said he's lost his faith and all that.
Yeah.
This man. Right. This is Psalm chapter 83. I'll just read it from 1. Right. It says, a song or psalm of Asaph, keep not thou silence, O power, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head, going into what their New World Order agenda, right? Pride, lift up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, who the Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, okay? And anyone else that descends through the line of Jacob. And, you know, the scattered. And consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. That's what this has got boiling down to, you know? For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. And then it goes on to say what? The tabernacles of Edom. And it goes on to different groups, Ishmaelites, Moab, and so on and so forth. But the first one it mentions is Edom. That's the chief enemy, man.
Yep.
That's the one that Esau, the Lord actually said he hates. Esau I have hated, Jacob have I loved. The so-called white man, Edom, okay? He's the one that's pushing what he's pushing. And he sees us as the threat, the monument upon the earth, okay?
Because he thinks if he can get rid of us, that he can get his blessing back.
And that's why you mentioned Jeremiah 31 earlier.
Yeah.
That's part of it too, okay? But he can't do that. The Lord didn't allow him to do that. And Israel is scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
How are you going to find us, man? So they got to really they have to dig deep into the core of who we are.
That's it.
You know?
And that's why it's even funny, because then, like, you have certain of his people, you know, Amalek and that, but we've said that now. Certain of them ain't even Amalek. Certain of them are even us.
So, yeah.
You know, so it's like, how you go and find that one out? But that's, you know, even like, yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're trying to study the spirit, how we actually are.
That's it.
You know? Yeah, let's keep playing. I think there was more in that clip. Eradicate forever, you know. Well, you can do that through the CHIP. You have to drill into a person's brain, which they do that anyway, because that's part of it.
So that's the thing. It's just like Neuralink is just the main one, right? But there was this Chinese one, which that just goes in your ear.
Yeah, they got different. They got in your arm and this and that, your hand.
No, but I'm saying in terms of the brain, it's not being one where they don't even need to do all of this. Right? Remember that was one of the stops, right? One of the stops was,
oh yeah, so you mean everyone's just going to end up getting brain surgery? And it was like, actually, you get certain ones where they will do an intravenous one through say your neck or something like that.
You always see that in like
dystopian
Black Mirror type,
like that. You know. But it's like, yeah, there was one in China. They legit, it's just it's something like they put it in your ear and stuff like that, and it's like, damn.
The old values and balances must be destroyed. So they've got to destroy anyone who's got any kind of link to the scriptures, because that's our values. That's where we get everything from. You know? Even Jake that are in the world, they still. Through, you know, that's Romans, what is the second chapter? Through their nature, they'll do certain things through their consciousness. They'll know certain things are wrong and certain things are right.
Yeah.
We're spiritual people. What's the timestamp?
In the previous scene that you just we just jumped off of, you had all of the stuff, but if you looked underneath, you was actually seeing like a breasts. So it's like a woman that was naked. That's one of the things that they use as well. They push that sex and just like lower the vibration.
It says if you can eradicate that, you can put what? Establish new balances, values, meaning what? He is as God, and he is his way, his doctrines, his philosophies. They got drugs there. And they can do that through the CHIP. Post-national, multi-ethnic, global society with no borders, New World Order agenda.
That's it.
One world government.
That being built to be interoperable, right? Which is why all of the different passports and I was surprised because like it'll be countries you would even consider right now moving to the biometric passport and stuff like that. Why? Because everyone is, and it will be countries that are poor. It's like, mate, you should be focusing on feeding your on your nation.
Yeah, they get funding for that.
Exactly.
All you need is IMF.
Exactly.
The programming of new people, man. And it's funny because the Lord is actually going to give us these new bodies, put the laws in our inward parts. This is the devil, man.
Yeah, because let's be real, that's a good point. Because it's like he's putting his ways in people's inward parts right now. Right, that's why you were speaking earlier on about people have these strongly held beliefs. Right, when you really think about what we've been watching from a very young age, it's been witchcraft. Right, it's been to subvert the minds of the people. So once again, this idea of Esau is playing God,
and it's against the truth. That's how when we tell the people the truth, they bug out, man. You know, they come across to the camp.
Grab this as a
Chris would say strong delusion.
Slap, bro. It's not even been sharing the right screen. Sorry, bro.
That's all right. It's cool. Well, I've been kind of pausing it and quoting it anyway. So
yeah,
you know, Lord willing, you know,
so I just because we were
for edification.
We were looking at this screen, innit?
That's cool. It's cool.
But
yeah, we were playing this clip basically,
Yeah.
and that's cool. And the main points we were actually voicing out anyway, so it's cool. You know,
I was going to get a preset. I forgot what it was now.
Might come back to you. Might as well just play it. There's only a bit left. Might as well play
Menschen. Anti-autoritäre Menschen nach Maß.
Just now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Psalms 83.
Yeah, anti-authoritarian people made to measure. So basically, complete control, slaves that are under you, and you're the god over them. That's what Esau wants in his, you know, his new world order agenda. That's what he's trying to achieve. But we know that Job 20 tells us that he ain't gonna be able to do that. Okay, not to his full extent of what he wants to do, because the Lord's gonna rain on his parade and end it, man.
That's it.
You know,
and also because I quoted it as well before. Let's grab this. This is Job 14:5. It says, "Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass." Right. So there's only so much that Esau's going to be allowed to do, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, as the apostles have said, it's the Most High's mark. Right? Ain't Esau's mark. He's just the henchman, if you will. That's it. It's like, you know, you got a boss. Right, the boss never gets his hands dirty. He sends out his henchmen. Right, once again, you read Psalm 17 and 13. It speaks about the wicked, which is thy sword. Right, so Esau just does the bidding of the Most High, man.
Yeah,
right.
And you know, for the Lord to bring up the base man of the earth and give him all this technology, make him all this power, and then take him down, man, that is beautiful. It's just so beautiful. It's poetic. It's like it's just to show the Lord's power, you know.
Yeah.
To put respect on His name.
That's right.
Just got a couple more. Do you have something or?
No.
Yeah. So can we go to Revelation 16, Revelation, the miracles, and also Revelation 13 and 16. Touch on the CHIP, and then also if we just hold Isaiah 14 from the 12th verse, you know, a couple of scriptures just to get through, you know, on this lesson, and then Lord willing, it's been edifying, you know, and then we'll close out, Lord willing.
Yep.
Right, and Salakia, you know, about the video thing. Hopefully, the main points were made anyway. We were kind of saying the points anyway, you know, and going through it. But there's a documentary called The Net, the Unabomber, LST, and the Internet, right, by Lutz Damnik, 2003. You know, if you want to go check it out, we can put it in the description as well or something. You can check that out, man. You know, to check out for yourself. But yeah, go ahead.
This is Revelation 16:14. For there the spirit of devils worketh miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day and of the Most High Almighty.
Yeah, and this is all leading to the destruction of himself. World War III, all this technology, okay, all this you know, working of miracles, putting CHIPs in people and making them the blind see or this and that. All this tech really is leading to your destruction, man.
That's right.
Okay, and it's the major prophecy. Okay, one of the keys that all this study that they've done of controlling this and that, one of the keys is the mark of the beast, and we're going to get that now to show you how important it is to understand what that is. And Revelation 14 talks about the judgment for taking it. So we know that you're not meant to take it.
That's it.
And if you take it, the Lord will destroy you.
Yeah.
You know. So it's important to know what it is. You got different camps saying it's this and that. No, you got to know what it is.
That's it.
Okay, it's not Christianity. It's not sleeping with white women. It's the implantable chip.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and it's something we've got to, Apostle use the word ad nauseum. It's something we have to think about and speak about ad nauseum, because outside of our echo chamber, we may think that everyone isn't going to take it. Right? We have to understand you have people that have no reason not to take it because they just see it as more tech. Just in the same way Apple brought out those you know, stupid goggles. People say, oh, I want to buy one of them goggles. Right? Why? Because this is just tech to most people. Like there was someone that came up to the camp to the Dallas camp like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then the elders asked, was like, "Oh, so would you take the mark?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like he was kind of just said, "Yeah," without, and like, why wouldn't I take it? He was just kind of, "Yeah, of course I'll take it," type of thing. Because you have people once again that just look at it like tech, and it's like, no, it's not just tech. Right? Because it's like what people have had, you know, intravenous drips or whatever it is before, like pacemakers and stuff like that. So now this is the mark of the beast.
This is the thing that's going to make you, if Esau had it his way, a perpetual slave under him, and him as your God, man. Obviously, the Lord's going to end it, you know. But that's what you're signing up to. You're subscribing to him as your God.
Because because people may just like, but it's a little bit of tech. But you look back at in the Maccabees, right, with Antiochus, Antiochus, however you say it, right? People may have just been like, bro, just a bit of pork blood. It's just, or made it's just a bit of meat. It's like, no, but it was forbidden. And part of it was to basically be consenting unto Antiochus. Read the story about the 7 brothers, right? He wants you to basically consent. That's why people, you be like, oh, but what if they just stick it in me? No. Esau wants you to consent and to say, no, I worship you. Right, so you know, I wouldn't even be worrying about if you just stick to it, because that's not what Esau wants. Esau wants you to say to him.
He wants to deceive you.
You know.
Let's read it. Okay.
Revelation 13:16, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
We're just talking about the chip. Are you gonna say?
I was gonna carry on reading. Yeah,
it's just talking about the chip, man. That's what the mark is. The implantable chip, the brain chip, this and that, whatever you want to call it. That's what it is. The implantable device, the technological chip device is going to be put into people. Okay, and that covers everyone. Okay, go ahead.
And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his
So this was an identifying factor of it. They're going to have it in a system where without that, you're not going to be able to
Yeah.
transact and buy or sell.
Yeah.
And that's the system that we're going to.
Yes.
I'm sorry, a cashless society
Mhm.
where all these banks, we know that your banks are linked to your identification.
Yep.
Okay. You ain't going to be able to have an identity without having that thing, because
Exactly.
all of your information is going to be on there.
Yeah. And when you look at the UK, man, we more or less there, man. We more or less there, because you look at, like, in the UK now, to rent, you need to prove you got to show your passport, right, or other identity saying you've got permission to be in the UK. To open up a financial institution, you need to do the same thing. Now, right now, as the system is, right, you can get away with it, right? Why? Because, for instance, you've got you may have someone that will, like, let you live in their house, right? They'll be like, you just stay here, just, you know, pay me this exorbitant amount of money, and you can just kind of stay here, right? But this is it. For instance, I made the statement earlier on last night about, like, my supermarket. It looks like a bloody prison. So you go in there and it's like, no, you can't enter. You got to use this gate to enter. But then at the checkouts, when the elder was bringing this out as well, it's like at the checkouts now you've got the cameras, right, with the screens, and that, you know, as things stand right now, it's just like, oh yeah, so stop stealing, right? But then you can very easily see that the cameras, because once the camera is there, it's there. It's okay, cool. Your thing, look at the thing. Yeah, you are who you say you are. Continue. Right.
That's
So
right.
the system's already there. It's just now having the right situation, which the scriptures tell us to watch and pray, right? To see how this system is moving and being built up over time, right? But it's just having the right crisis to basically go all out, right? To be like, you know what, we tried doing it where we trusted you. So obviously you can't be trusted. So here's this new system, right, where it's going to be full trust. Because what's like one more last point, what's one of the things they keep pushing? It's like scams. You know, don't get scammed.
Anti-money laundering.
Anti-money laundering, this, that, and the other. All of these things basically saying we don't trust you. I made the application the other day, like a month or so ago, and the AI it was blocked on fraud. I was like, me. Right. So all of these systems to basically get you in that, oh my God, you know, we may be scammed or whatever, but then they're going to come with solutions.
Right. And the solution is the CHIP.
Hey, bro, you saw me try to log into the Google earlier on. Yeah. How many times I was asking for this, for that? I was like, bro, just want to log in, bro.
Yep. Let's go to Isaiah, sure.
So Isaiah 14 from 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?
Which just means light bearer. You know, people see Lucifer, they bug out. You know, that's not talking about the devil or Satan. It means light bearer. And the ones that have the light right now in this society, so-called have the light, are the illuminated ones, if you will, are these elites of Esau. Which really, we're the true light bearers, because we represent Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is the light. Okay, this word is the light. Right? It says, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Yeah, keep going, okay. Yeah.
But thou hast said in thine heart, I will send into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation, the sides of the north.
Yeah, they've been oppressing us. Okay, it says the sides of the North, America. It's the main place of our oppression. Okay. He says he's going to ascend into heaven, exalt his throne above the stars of God. He's going to exalt himself above us. Nah, you ain't the sons of God. You know, we are God now.
Yeah.
To do away from us, man. It says, well, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. He's got satellites, he's got all this and that in the sky. Okay. He's going to be like God. That's how he thinks in his head. Okay. So if he, you know, wants to, if there might be an elite somewhere, he just wants to shut you down in that system now. Okay. They can just zoom onto you with a camera, or just, you know, put you in a database, and you're done.
That's it.
Keep going, Akil.
Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
Yeah, you can be taken down. Keep going.
They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made thee?
Is this the man? So we know that it's talking about men.
Exactly.
Okay, the Edomites. Yeah.
Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of its prisoners?
And that's how they're going to look at you in the kingdom, man. Okay, because you're going to be brought down really low.
Yeah.
Like, this is the man that had all that technology, that was shaking kingdoms, that was dropping bombs and all that.
Yeah.
You're going to be nothing.
Because you're not going to have your different propaganda machines either. Because that's one of the things you kind of look, like for instance, he always says that he hates James Bond because they make the CIA or what was this, the MI6, MI5, whichever one, right, seem like the good guys, that they're going out saving the world. It's like, no, that's not the reality. The reality is you're going out and you're destroying people.
That's right.
They keep saying, like, notice how whenever you have these films and it's like end of the world and they need someone to save the world, it's always like a small hat.
Yep.
It's always a small hat. Oh, if we just do this and that stuff like that. The only closest we've come is Will Smith in ID4.
Yeah.
But even then, if I'm not mistaken, in the control room, you had like what, bare Edomites. Even bloody, what was its face? Black Panther. I never watched the second one. Right, you had them two guys just there. Here it is. It's supposed to be, you know, a pro-black team, but you had the two guys there. What do you call it? The main guy. I forget his name, man. That British guy, the white guy. But he's just all up in there helping to save the day. Esau's always a smart one. That's always coming in saving the day. That's part of his propaganda.
Angel of light.
Angel, like I said.
Yeah.
Right. How Satan transformed into an angel up. You ain't gonna have that. You ain't gonna have no propaganda machine. It's just gonna be your true, raw, unadulterated history.
The baseman devil.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll go and say, like, for instance, bro, I didn't even know. Like, I was reading into this. Like, bro, did you know, like, when it came to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the dropping all them bombs, they just had a list of cities they might hit, and it all depended on the weather, like which cities they were gonna hit. And it was just, I was just there like, rah.
War. Yeah. War.
You know, that's this man for you. Like, he didn't care. He wasn't supposed to hit Nagasaki. He was supposed to hit another city, but I was like, oh, fuck it, can't hit, there's a storm. This is the guy who we're dealing with, but he's portrayed in the world as this great, as Brother quoted the precept, the angel of light.
Yeah, there was other places he hit as well, but that was the main. Yeah. All right, man. So, do you have anything you want to add? Or?
Nah,
yeah,
that was very much it.
All right, man. Hey, you know, shalom to the brothers posting on, you know, on the comment board. You know, Yahweh Shabbat the water. And, you know, Lord, it's been an edifying lesson. And, you know, soon, man, Esau's going to be taken out. He's doing this last few push now for the New World Order. And he's going to be taken out soon from the seat of power, man. And our power is going to, Yahweh Shai is going to set up the Israelites upon the earth to rule, man. That's right. Starting with his elect. Okay, which we hope that we're of that number. So, yeah, man, Lord, it's edifying. And with that, man, we're